Hi, Jamie. Welcome back.
Hi guys, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 35 and end on page 37. And our study tonight will start on page 37 and end on page 39. Are there any announcements?
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to everybody joining us for the first time. We are glad to have you here. Got a couple of announcements. First is that next Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, so figure it out in whatever time zone you are in, we will be having our group conscience a week before we go into first quarter assembly. If you are not a home group member and you would like to join us to see how we operate in this group, you are more than welcome to come and join. You won't have a vote unless you're a home group member, but we love for people to come see how we operate our business meetings and take care of such things. Also, Trish and Shana and I are currently working on the celebration of life for our dearly departed friend Art, and we will have that done probably here in the next week or so, and probably by the end of the month it will be a Saturday. We haven't set date and time yet, but most likely a Saturday afternoon. We will have his celebration of life, so we will get that in order. Also, sponsorship workshop is presented by District 40, and Trish, myself, and a couple of other members and a past area chair speaker are putting together this sponsorship workshop. That will, and topics will include: how do I choose a sponsor? What's the role of sponsor? What is a service sponsor? And a questions and answer session. And we will be holding that on Saturday, February 21st, 2026, from noon to 4 p.m. It's going to be bricks and mortar and Zoom, so it will be a hybrid. The Zoom ID will be 889-131-0346, and the password will be 085607. And for more information, I'll put my number in the chat, and you can contact me, and I'll be happy to give you whatever. And I think Trish has a couple of announcements as well.
I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. For the sponsorship workshop, I did throw that information in the chat so you can take a screenshot of it so you have it. And our service workshop on February 7th is for anyone who is actively serving in this group or who would like to serve in this group, so we can teach you the how we do stuff around here with the screen shares and the scripts and all of that stuff. So feel free to come and join us. And good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Trish. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Lisa. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are muted and sharing, as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all use proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God, let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring those cute little monks in and let them do what they do so well.
And please join us in our family's fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Amen. And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Jim.
Thank you all very much, Jim Up, an alcoholic. Good to be here with everybody. And my friend, I've asked our friend Mike from Boston to read the recovery statement.
Nigger.
We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Mike.
Disruption.
All right. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic. My first time on this meeting. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body, page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our big book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our big book study seriously because of this. Chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
Welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
All right. And the recovered alcoholics. You all? These are potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Craig
Oh,
is.
Craig. You're muted, Craig.
Yeah, I thought you guys have to unmute or send a notice. Hey, Craig, alcoholic in 3 days. Well, actually 2.5. I'll have 33 years.
Way to go.
Wonderful.
Woohoo.
Congratulations. Come back next week and we'll give you a tip for that.
Yeah.
Good to see you, my friend.
Thanks.
I am Jimmy, and I'm an alcoholic.
Jimmy.
And yesterday I had 5 years.
Way to go.
Congratulations.
5 years on
And
1-5.
And Trish is working on that now.
I am. It's coming. Congratulations, Jimmy.
Ooh, nice. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Right on, brother.
Congratulations. Thanks for sharing it with us.
All righty. Anyone else? I think that's it. Hey, Craig and Jimmy.
Brian, did you have something?
Yeah. This month I made a year, 6 months.
Wonderful.
All righty. 1 year, 6 months.
That would be
Congratulations.
18 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Trish
Way
is
to
working
go.
on that too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Larry?
Yeah,
There you go, 18 months.
You raised your hand.
I didn't know I raised my hand. I thought I gave thumbs up.
Congratulations.
It's so confusing.
That's AI for you. All righty. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat, and thank you, and we'll see you next week.
And thank you so much, Jim. And just a quick note, folks. We're running 2 weeks behind because of the holidays. We just had regular meetings. So normally we would have done this meeting 2 weeks ago. So for those who are coming into the rotation, for the next year. Everything is pushed back by 2 weeks, so we will get that adjustment made for you. Thank you.
From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and a program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 10. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 11. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Alyssa.
And Trish, would you co-host Alyssa real quick in case she needs that for to screen share?
Already did it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. This is Tradition 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And then it gives a dialogue. It says, ours is not a secret society. We carry the message anywhere we can. But we must ever be aware that self-appointed messiahs speaking for AA throughout public media can do us great damage. And to give an example of most recently, someone that did that, oh goodness, his name is, he's off of Friends, and he published a book and he wrote about AA, and then he ended up overdosing and passing away. You know, and that doesn't speak for the success rates for the entirety of AA. That's his. So that type of media attention can do us great harm, because when the steps are worked according to the way they are outlined in the Big Book, and we follow those directions, we can recover from that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and we can live happy, joyous, and free. So if somebody puts themselves in the spotlight and we can't verify whether or not they're living by the steps or they're doing the AA program, you know, they're putting the AA name in danger, because this process does work when it's worked, and that's been proven over and over again, and it can be damaging when it's put in the spotlight, because we can't verify what someone has done or has not done, and that's not our business to do so. Just like that's why it's in the traditions for us to keep that out of the media. So it says, alcoholics who have recovered through our program are themselves the strongest attraction that AA has. When people are asked what led them to seek AA help, the answer given most often is an AA member. Their chances would have been slim if all of us had remained completely in hiding. But many of us have chosen to tell our friends, neighbors, employers, coworkers, doctors, or spiritual advisors that we are in AA. And when we do so, we are not breaking our anonymity in the meaning of this tradition. Suppose a sick alcoholic never has the good fortune to meet an AA. How is such a person going to find us? The search will be difficult if the local group thinks it should be anonymous too. The tradition is talking about personal anonymity. Remember, alcoholics will not be attracted to AA if they don't know that it exists, or if they have distorted, unfavorable impressions of its members or its program. Giving the general public an accurate picture of AA is the chief job of our public information committees. In addition, they often carry the message to certain groups, from police officers to personal directors, whose work includes contact with active alcoholics. And then it gives how to be anonymous on TV. It says information about AA is being offered to the public through all communications media, in print and over the air. On radio, it's easy to guard members' anonymity, of course, but TV, not in wide use when the traditions were written. In another matter, according to a conference opinion, members are breaking their anonymity when they are identified on TV as AAs and their faces are shown, whether or not their names are given. And yet this medium, with its vast audiences, cannot be ignored. Different techniques have been employed to preserve anonymity on TV. Masks, screens, backlighting that shows AAs only as silhouettes, camera angles showing them only from the back. The shadow method diagrammed here is simple, relaxed, and appropriate. For we are not selling personalities. We are explaining AA. Personal anonymity breaks in the public media not only may discourage timid prospects, they may threaten the anonymity breaker's own sobriety by violating the spirit of the AA program and traditions. Thank you for letting me be your traditionalist this week.
Thank you, Alyssa. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is think through the drink. Larry, can you tell us what it says about that on page 29 in paragraph 2?
Yes, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. It says, further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered.
Thank you.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 35, which will be read by Donald, and followed by our study portion, read by Billy, which will be on page 37, ended on page 39.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at our study portion that is read by Billy. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point. This meeting started in Jamie's home, and when COVID hit, it went to Zoom and remained that way. This is a 96-week big book study. We are in our 5th year of being a group and in our 4th season going through the book. We study with the question and answer format starting at the title page and go through page 164. Through the preface, the foreword, the doctor's opinion that teaches us the history and how we developed and about our threefold disease, spiritual malady, obsession, and allergy. We read Bill's story, Dr. Bob's nightmare, chapter 2, 3, more about alcoholism. We do the traditions, 4 weeks on the traditions, 3 traditions. I'm sorry, I just had a brain freeze. 4 weeks on the traditions. We read the spiritual experience 4 times. 3 times when we're going through the book, when the asterisks refer to it, and our final week of the study, we close the season out with reading the spiritual experience again, because it's very important. And that's it.
Lisa, mind if I make one quick amendment to
Absolutely,
to all of that? Folks, tomorrow, which will be January 7th, it will be exactly 6 years ago that we had the very first meeting of this group in my house with 12 other alcoholics. So thanks for being here. We're grateful to have you.
So welcome to year 6.
Yay!
Tomorrow. So before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And just a reminder, please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website and onto our YouTube channel. So, Donald, could you come on in with our recap, please?
Sure, if I could get this darn thing unmuted. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gandalf the Red Pickle, and I'm a very grateful, recovered, but not cured alcoholic. And, okay, our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. Hi, Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He is a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He is an intelligent man, normal as far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in a serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had a deep affection. Yet he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. And this is the story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned. I had a few words with the boss. but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they had a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a new car at this place, which was familiar, for I had been going to it for years. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at a table, ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still, no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and poured it into my milk, and I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt assured I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. This started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk. Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you, Donald. And Billy, come on in with this week's study portion, please.
Hey, everybody. You may think this is an extreme case. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences. But there was always the curious mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning, there inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves, in all earnestness and sincerity, how it could have happened. In some circumstances, we had gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we were obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened. We now see that when we begin to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. Our behavior is as absurd and incomprehensible with respect to the first drink and that of an individual with a passion, say, for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap, having queer ideas of fun. Luck then deserts him, and he is slightly injured several times in succession. You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out. Presently, he is hit again, and this time has a fractured skull. Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast-moving trolley car breaks his arm. He tells you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good, but in a few weeks, he breaks both legs. On through the years, this conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work. His wife gets a divorce, and he's held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways. But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine, which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? You may think our illustration is too ridiculous, but is it? We, who have been through the ringer, have to admit if we substituted alcoholism for jaywalking, the illustration would fit us exactly. However intelligent we may have been in other respects where alcohol has been involved, we have been strangely insane. It's strong language, but isn't it true? Some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply here. We admit we have some of these symptoms, but we have not gone to the extremes your fellow did, nor are we likely to, for we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such things cannot happen again. We have not lost everything in life through drinking, and we certainly do not intend to. Thanks for the information. That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at present time, are able to stop or moderate, because their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. Let us take another illustration.
Thank you, Billy, and thank you, Donald, for your service. So we are going back to where Billy began reading, and we will then start reading, and I will start reading the questions. And we have some volunteers who are going to answer the questions. And our batting order tonight will be Kenny, Linda, Jim, Jamie, Terry, and William. And if you would all please go ahead and unmute yourselves. And just a reminder, please speak clearly and into your microphones. And let's get going. Kenny, you have our first question tonight. Is this kind of thing far-fetched to us? And you get 2 sentences.
You may think this an extreme case. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us.
Thank you. And Linda, good to see you. How have some of us given more thought to the consequences than Jim did?
We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences.
Thank you. And Jim, a 2-part question. A, what is curious about the alcoholic's thinking? And B, what overrode our sound reasoning?
But there was always the curious mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning, there inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to be coming in with some comments. And the first one is, are they pointing out to us that the mental obsession can also be called a mental phenomenon?
Sounds like a thought. And Jamie, will sound reasoning keep us from taking the first drink?
Sound reasoning failed to hold us in check.
Thank you. Terry, what always wins out?
The insane idea won out.
Sure did. And William, what do we then earnestly and sincerely ask ourselves?
Next day, we would ask ourselves, in all earnestness and sincerity, how it could had happened.
Thank you. So true. And Kenny, back to you, and you get a two-part question. A, do we occasionally decide to get drunk and then go do it? B, what prompts us to do such a crazy thing?
In some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like.
So true. And Linda, what are we obliged to admit after such a binge?
But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened.
Thank you. Jim, another two-part question for you. A, what do we come to understand when we start drinking deliberately? And B, at this stage of the disease, can we imagine what the consequences will be when we start drinking?
We now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be.
Yeah. Again, is this mental obsession? And as we study the story of the jaywalker, look for the similarities between that crazy fool and us, the chronic alcoholic.
There are many.
Yeah.
And Jamie, to whom do the first 100 compare our behavior?
Our behavior is as absurd and incomprehensible with respect to the first drink as that of an individual who, say, has a passion, say, for jaywalking.
Thank you. Terry, what really thrilled this guy?
He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles.
And William, a two-part question. A, was he having fun? B, did his actions bother his friends?
He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of his friendly warning. Up to this point, you will.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Did your drinking bother your friends?
Sure did. And Kenny, how do folks label him?
Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having a queer idea for fun.
Thank you. And Linda, what happened to him when his luck ran out?
Luck then deserts him, and he is slightly injured several times in succession.
Thank you. And Jim, if he were normal, what would he have done at this point?
You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out.
Right? If you were a normal person, what would you have done when your drinking started causing you problems?
Jamie, but since he apparently was not normal, what happened to him next?
Presently, he is hit again, and this time has a fractured skull.
Ouch. Terry, within a week, what happened?
Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast-moving trolley car breaks his arm.
And William, with that piece of bad luck, what did he decide to do? And please stop at the comma.
He tell you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good.
Thank you.
After some pretty tragic consequences resulting from your drinking, what did you decide to do?
And I'm going to continue with William to finish out that sentence. What were the consequences of his ability to manage that decision to quit for good and all?
But in a few weeks, he breaks both legs. Wow.
What have been the consequences of your inability to manage your decision to quit for good and all?
And Kenny, did he keep on trying to quit?
On through the years, this conduct continued unaccompanied by his continuous promise to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether.
Did you keep trying to quit?
Linda, did his problem cost him his job? And please stop at the comma.
Finally, he can no longer work.
Did your drinking cost you a job?
And I'm going to stick with Linda to finish out this sentence. And it's a two-parter now. A, did his problem cost him his wife? And B, did it make a fool of him?
His wife gets a divorce and he is held up to ridicule.
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 I have two comments. Did your drinking cost you some members of your family? Did your problem make a fool of you?
Yep.
Yep.
And Jim, did he try everything he could think of to quit?
He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head.
Thank you. Jamie, how far did he go in trying to find a way to quit jaywalking?
He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways.
How far have you gone to try and stay dry?
And Terry, what happened the day he left the security of lockup?
But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine, which breaks his back.
Does this parallel any experience you might have had?
And William, what label would you and everyone else put on this guy?
Such a man would be crazy, would not he?
What label would people who know you place on you?
Good question. And Kenny, is this illustration ridiculous? 2 sentences, please.
You may think this illustration is too ridiculous, but is it?
Thank you. Linda, what will we real alcoholics admit?
We who have been through the ringer have to admit if we substituted alcoholism, I'm going to read that again, we who have been through the ringer have to admit if we substituted alcoholism for jaywalking.
Keep going to the period.
Hold on. The illustration would fit us exactly.
Yes, it would. And Jim, as intelligent and smart as we were, what do we honestly admit?
However intelligent we may have been in other respects, where alcohol has been involved, we have been strangely insane.
So true. And Jamie, is it true or false?
It's strong language, but isn't it true?
Terry, what do some alcoholics think?
Some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply.
And William, since we have done a good job of explaining alcoholism, and they are full of self-knowledge, are they confident they can manage a decision to stay sober? And please read the rest of the paragraph.
We admit we have some of these symptoms, but we have not gone to the extreme. You fellas did, nor are we likely to, for we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such a thing cannot happen again.
Two more sentences.
We have not lost everything in life through drinking, and we continually do not intend to. Thanks for the information. See you later.
Thank you. And Kenny, who can stay sober based on self-knowledge?
That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who though drinking foolishly and heavily at the present time are able to stop or moderate because their brain and bodies have not yet been damaged as ours were.
Thank you. And Linda, how well can the actual or potential alcoholic stay away from drinking based on self-knowledge?
But the actual or the potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge.
Thank you. And Jim, you get our last question for the evening. What point do we want to drive home to the alcoholic? And please read 2 sentences.
This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize to smash home upon our alcoholic readers, as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. Let us take another illustration.
Thank you. And that other illustration will be next week in Fred's story. So, if you have experience with the book that we've just read, please feel free to share. And please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. So we're now going to open up for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what we just read. Hi, Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I am an alcoholic. And we did tradition 11, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm grateful to be sober. I'm grateful that I came into the new year sober. And I was around a bunch of silly, sober people laughing and talking and just carrying on. And that's, today I go to sober functions. If it's drinking, you're not going to see me there. So this right here is, oh my gosh, this really gets into it. It talks about the denial, talks about the insanity. And it says it right there. What would you call a person that does this over and over? I would call that person insane. And for me, I did lose a job. I did lose my children. I did lose a husband. So I lost all of that. And then the last thing that I lost was my mind. And that was the worst part. And once I lost my mind, that was it. That was my bottom. The 11th tradition talks about, and this does have something to do with it because I just had it. So I will just say that, we have to maintain our anonymity on the level of, at press, radio, or film. Now, Matthew Perry, and I just had it up, he didn't write a book about AA. He didn't write a book about AA. He wrote a book, and the book, it was about friends, lovers, and the big terrible thing. And it was his memoir. And this is what they said about Matthew Perry, and it ties into everything that's here. It is just like so real. It says that is a largely focus on decades-long battle with addiction, detailing his extensive experience with AA and recovery. And then he was really candid about his struggles with alcohol, opioid addiction, and he attended an estimated of 6,000 AA meetings, going to rehab 15 times and detox 65 times. He was spending approximately $9 million on his recovery efforts. So he more or less was writing a book about his struggles with alcohol, and I'm sure he read the big book. I'm sure he read it, because right there he was admitting it about all of this extensive work that he did. But he just didn't want to stop. He didn't want to stop, and it's right here. More about alcoholism. It's right in there. The denial, the stubbornness, the insanity, and his addiction with alcohol, and it was the gateway for the other stuff. It just took him into the abyss, and it took him over the line, and that was it. And it's so ironic how this 11th tradition, and he really didn't, he did break his anonymity, but there was a reason. And just looking at those facts, because if you go to Google, it gives you, or it pulls nothing but facts about someone, or it tries to pull facts, it's not always correct. But it just talks about, he wrote about himself, and he wrote about that addiction. And he couldn't stop. And that, to me, that was like a cry of help. But he was getting the help. But He just didn't want to stop. He didn't want to stop. And this jaywalker doesn't want to stop. Gets a cracked skull, doesn't want to stop. As I said, I had to lose everything, and then, like I said, the last part, lose my mind before I stopped. Thank God that I did. Thank God that I did. Thank God for whatever reason. I don't know what it was, because I could have been Matthew Perry. I could have overdosed. I don't know what it was. Something happened, and I was the one to get sober. Because remember, there's a lot of us that come here, and we don't get sober. There's a lot of people that die for whatever reason. I can't judge anyone. I don't know what goes on in their mind. But, sometimes people say, well, you could just stop. And they just don't want to stop. And they just, we don't know. We just don't know, with some alcoholics. The insanity is so deep. They're not going to stop. And it's all right in their face, everything that they're losing and all the things they're going through. But they just don't stop. And this is what they say about alcoholism. It's a mental peculiar twist. And this disease does center in our mind. So I'm grateful that I'm one of the people that, got pulled to the other side, got pulled to recovery. That life preserver was given to me, and I held on to it. Because I could have been a person that died, and I would have left my 2 sons orphaned. And I would have hurt my family tremendously, And I'm just grateful that, no, that wasn't me. I'm very grateful. I don't care what I go through in AA, I'm staying sober.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, Billy. Come on in.
Hi, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Billy. So I have a really funny story to tell you. Today, while I was at work, a sponsee had called. I was at work, so I couldn't answer, but I got her message, and I sent her a text and said, I get out of work at this time, call me. So she did. And on the phone, she said, I need to do a 4-step. I haven't done a thorough 4-step with you, and I need to do one. And I said, so what's up? She said, well, I used again yesterday. And I said, no, I don't think you need to do a thorough 4-step with me today. I think we need to back it up a couple of steps. And we did 1, 2, and as part of 3, I actually got my big book out and talked about and read with her the jaywalker. I had no idea what this meeting was going to be on tonight. I've missed the last couple because of illness and exhaustion. But talk about serendipity, because I kept asking her. Because, this has been going on now for like a year and a half since I've known her. What has changed? How far are you willing to go? What lengths are you willing to go to? And kept asking her questions like that in order to get her to identify what works and what has not worked. And God willing, and the creeks don't rise, she'll call me at 8 o'clock in the morning. We were on the phone today for 2 hours. We got off the phone, and I jumped into this meeting. So, I hope she calls me at 8 a.m. I really do. Because she really seemed to get it when I was talking about, I can't do this for anybody but me. I've got to find that one thing that I've never told anybody about that I keep going back and using about. Because that's what I did. I was the jaywalker. You couldn't have told me nothing until I had had enough. Until I wanted to stay sober for me and only me. Until I wanted to change my people, places, and things and my life. So, keep your fingers crossed for her. I hope she's done. I know I am. So, yeah. because, and I said, you know, you can only stay sober if you're willing to die to stay sober. If that's how far you're willing to go. So we'll see. I'm not drinking over it. That's for darn sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Billy. Who is next? Hi, Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I like these comments, you know. If I was a normal person, what would I have done when my drinking started causing me problems? You know, I would have stopped, I wouldn't have picked it up again. And you know, even after some pretty tragic consequences resulting from my drinking, what did I decide to do? You know, there was a time, I think I was in my 20s, and I'm in the car and the passenger seat and shit-faced and going around a rotary. And thank God it was 2, 3 in the morning because I fell out of the car. I mean, if it was 4 or 5 hours earlier, boy, you know, did that get me to stop? No, I made excuses. And I was actually in a DUI program at the time. And the next week, you know, I had bruises and scrapes all over me. You know, oh, I was in a car accident. I lied, you know. That's crazy. Crazy. You know, my drinking cost me jobs. My drinking cost me people and places and things. Kept on trying to stay sober, but I never, you know, learned, I never picked up this big book. I never learned about my alcoholism. I always thought it was just about putting the drink down, and I could do that. I did it many, many, many times for certain periods of time. You know, the jaywalker, you know, it sounds crazy, but I mean, you know, I look at the things that have gone on because of drinking in my life, and it don't sound that crazy to me. I can relate. And how many times I said it and I meant it with everything I got. Wholeheartedly, I meant it. You know, how far I go to not drink. I mean, I stopped going to restaurants. I didn't want to be around it. I'd get agitated and pissed off. I saw somebody else drinking and I couldn't. Well, you know, got away from people, stayed away from people, blamed people. You know, I was dry, but that was all. I was still angry, depressed, anxious, you know, all of those feelings. And, you know, doing the work in this big book has taught me about that. You know, I'm not resentful like I was. You know, I'm working on all of that. Doing this work has helped tremendously change my perspective, you know, and boy, what a great reading and a great study tonight. And boy, I can so relate. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. Thanks to everybody who is new to us. Some had to leave early. Thank you to everyone for your service tonight. I love Chapter 3. And Chapter 3 is about two things and two things only. The mental obsession and untreated alcoholism. Those are the two things that this chapter is about. And I'm going to refer back to just a few pages earlier that we studied a few weeks ago on page 24. Squiggly writing, folks, that means it's important. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory and suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. So, I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous a long time. And one thing that I know is that it's not my place to tell anybody's story. It's only my place to tell my story. And it doesn't matter what I've read or what I've seen in media or any of that. Because the fact is, I don't know. But I do know my own story, and if I can't reconcile my story with what's in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have absolutely no business exposing any of you to it. And this is a place where it's talking about chronic relapsers. And I just picked up the Plain Language Big Book, which personally I am not a fan of. And I don't want to start a controversy about that in this meeting. The reason I'm not a fan of it is even though it uses the same people and the same ideas, it presents in a different way. In the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, presents it to me to where I see that it's untreated alcoholism and mental obsession. So here's what I know for sure and for certain. Even though I knew about Alcoholics Anonymous through my mother, and she was sober, and I knew many of her sober friends. Again, not my place to tell their story. They planted seeds for about 17 years, and they kept my chair warm until I made it to Alcoholics Anonymous. I have never been a chronic relapser. I drink on a daily basis to the bitter end. And my way of controlling my drinking was, I just won't drink today. And before you knew it, I was down at the liquor store making my purchase. And I'm only going to have one, but I bought 12. I have been blessed to never have to pick up another drink since I put the last one down. Absolutely blessed. I know that's not everybody's story. And relapse is part of some people's story, but it doesn't have to be a part of anybody's story. But it is. And those folks become an example to the rest of us. Provided one thing, that they make it back to Alcoholics Anonymous and tell us what happened. But here's the deal, folks. Sure, we see lots of people come back in the rooms. You know the ones we never hear about? The ones that went out and died. We don't hear about them. Oh, sorry, forgot the timer was on. So, you know, here's the thing, and this is what's important. I work with a lot of people. I don't tell one of them what they gotta. There's no place in the book where it says I get to tell you you gotta. It says that I tell my own personal stuff. As an example, it's a process of planting seeds. And that's a good thing. And with that, I will shut up because I got so much more to say on the subject. Love you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, Pia. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Pia, and I'm an alcoholic, and I haven't slept, but I just want to say thank you for service. It was really nice to listen at all this, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here. And I just listening, and I just think I'm really glad for I meet AA. I'm really glad for I come in here in this group here, and I'm really glad for I have a sponsor, and I believe in something, and I love the 12 steps and the 12 stagnation. I really, really like the 5. I like them all, but the 5 stagnation I really like, and I think it's what is happening in here. It's therefore one of the points why I'm sober. It's because the 5 stagnation and the number 3, and you talk about the steps, and you talk about in recovery and everything, and that's spot on for me. My sponsor say to me when I start with her, yeah, are you willing to change? And I said, yeah, but it depends. Are you willing to change everything because the same person will drink again? And I think it was too much, but I just said yes. And what I really liked, it was to talk really much about my sickness, about the physical and mental and the spiritual. And when I understand that, and I could talk about myself, about it, about me and where I am, and so I understand it. We start the 4 steps from step 1, not step 4, but step 1. And it's always also now I have 5 years, 6 months, and 16 days. I still start in step 1. Also, when I have to do my morning, I don't know how you say it in English, but I do something in the morning and I do something before I go to bed. You can see it here. I'm not sleeping now. And it's step 10 and 11. And if there are something, or if not, I always start in step 1 because I'm powerless for everything. And so I go to step 1. I became to believe, I can say it in English. I can't step in Danish. And after then, when I've done step 1, 2, and 3, so I can go to step 4. But I think it's really, really great. It's like I say to my sponsee, before I get sober, I always start to drink. I could say it every morning or every night or every evening. I never do that again. And I did it. So I tell them, it's the same when I bake a cake. I put something in so that the cake will grow up. but I couldn't understand why it's never grew up. So I find out I haven't put this in the cake, and it's the same. It's in the big book. Here there are something I can do, but I cannot just do something. And after then I get sober, I need still to go to a meeting, make service, the fellowship, and what it says, recovery. I still need that. And it's and God, of course, God. Yeah. And I still need it. And I just do it, and I will do it, because my life is perfect. I can't sleep tonight, but it doesn't matter. I'm sober. But I go glad to bed, wake up glad. I have a great life. I'm grateful for. I'm never angry. Never. I'm just happy. Yeah. It's cold in Denmark, and it's lovely, and it's New Year, and life is good, and I really enjoy to being here. And I think there are a lot of old timers here. And when I said Tradition 5, it's not just for newcomer, not from my way. It's not just for newcomer. It's for everyone. In Denmark, when I sit in a meeting, I look at every person's eyes. How are you? Because an old timer can feel bad, and it's okay. You're not a hero. You're a human. And it's therefore we have a unity, fellowship, and that's good. I just need to say it because I have seen a lot of old timers start to drink again because they are a hero and they're not a hero. They're just a human, and they're not alcoholic. Thank you for service, and sleep well, and thank you for letting me share. Night, night.
Thank you, Pia. Glad you're here tonight. Hi, William.
Hi, my name is William Alcohol. I want to say hi to my friends and Happy New Year's to you. This tomorrow, the last day, it's safe to say Happy New Year's. I wasn't here with y'all last week, but I'm glad to be here today. I had other things going on in my life. But I definitely identify with Fred, and I couldn't do that before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and began to make some meetings, And definitely my alcoholism was just like you written it in the book there with the jaywalker and stuff, And I was one of those too. Thank you for the information. I'll see you later. You know what I mean? But I tell you, with a belly full of alcohol and a head full of AA, I began to say, oh, okay, that's what they mean. That's what they mean, because I always had some insane idea that I could pick up. I get a little half a pint, I eat before I drink, I change the color of the liquor, and it always was the same. Another beat down, and definitely, in the forwards, they talk about all us in there, it talks about me in there, They said in the pioneer time, they would only take low bottom drunks, So and then they say 50% of those low bottom drunks got sober, okay? 50% of them went out, and the 25% was me. I came back and I sit down and I began to believe what y'all was telling me, and so that's what got me, what I mean? And I like, and when I was coming, I used to hear people come in and say, I'm a real alcoholic. And right here, he said a potential alcoholic. When they wrote this book, he had it all. What I like about the book, it's inclusive, never exclude anybody out of here. Somebody put me out of here is William. You know what I mean? And definitely, all that information. And I tell you, when I was suffering with alcoholism, and every time they read how it worked, I heard it. I heard it. It said grave emotional mental disorder. But I didn't hear this part. I diagnosed myself as having grave and mental disorder, which I do. You know what I mean? I can admit that today, because anybody put what into your body like that is insane, But I didn't hear but. The word but would cancel out that first part, but they do get sober. It took me a long time to hear that and to do that, because I tell you, I'm a practical person, So I kept coming. I came back to the meeting, began to listen, and learn to listen and listen to learn, And then I began to do. And I think for me, like I say, it's all inclusive. We all recover at different paces. I did a lot of damage because I had access to a whole lot of stuff that could do me damage. And I had no control over it once I picked it up the first way. So, cause I could look back over my life, I had did some good things in life that I questioned. Whenever I began to get sober, what happened? I went to school. I to get in charge of people, do a whole lot of stuff, entrepreneur, a whole lot of stuff. But when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of brain stuff was done. But I'm glad to be sober. With all that said and done, people shared their experience, helped me. I share mine. Hope I help somebody else. But you know what? Remember what Lois told Bill when Bill said, I'm helping somebody? I ain't helped nobody. I've been doing this for 6 months. And Lois said, you so you keep doing what you're doing. And Dr. Silkwood told Bill some very important stuff. Don't preach, don't look down, don't lecture, don't do none of that because we don't hear that. I couldn't hear that if you told me something like that. Because if it bring up some anger, some resentment, some other stuff in me that I need to do it, and a lot of time because of that, I go back and pick up a drink. So I thank God for AA. I thank God for y'all. I thank God for my supply. I thank God I was one of those who come here because today with this information, I can't call them alcoholics, but I can see a lot of suffering that I couldn't see before. I've seen people come here and stay here 45, 50 years and continue to do drink. But I'm just grateful that I'm here. You know what I mean? And I still, what I do when I see these things, it gives me more being grateful, man, because I could do that. You suffer. A lot of suffering out there because of this. And I'm grateful today that it's a choice that I can make. But I didn't have no choice when I was running the latch of alcoholism. There was no choice. It just more, and more because I had nothing to feel that dark place inside of me. Today, I have this program, I have y'all, and most important, I have God. And how do I keep that in my life? Prayer and meditation. I don't ask God for nothing more because He has provided everything I needed. I just say, thank you, God, every morning I wake up. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, William. Glad to have you here with us tonight. Hi, Larry.
Hey, I'm a thankful recovered alcoholic. I'm Larry. And, I look at my life when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I had moved through the progression of this disease, and I didn't even know what I had. I didn't even realize that I had a disease. I hadn't even put together anything. I knew a lot of people that told me I needed help, and they said you really need to slow down. You probably need to quit drinking. And I was the kind of person, that I made statements back to them and says, well, that's for losers, stuff like that. Had I heard, if I'd known about AA, and if anybody would have said to me, you need to go to AA, because at the time I had not even heard of AA, I would have made statements like AA is for quitters. That's the kind of person I was at that time, because I'm, my way of quitting was insane, and getting more expensive liquor, thinking that maybe if I got more expensive stuff, I wouldn't drink as much, or stuff like that, where all it did was just increase my liquor price. And I just only drink after a certain time, after work. Just one drink before I went to bed as soon as I got home from work, which was early in the afternoon. I got off work at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I told myself, I'll just have one drink, and that one drink was a glass about this much, filled with about half whiskey and half water. Which I went to sleep for a couple hours, 3 hours maybe, got up, went to the casino. It was a ridiculous lifestyle that I was living. And, I heard, it said, and I appreciate what Jamie said, because this is about chronic relapse, and I wasn't a chronic relapser. When I got into AA, I was, if it hadn't have been for Mom, and I got there at the airport and I looked down and I saw the disappointment in my mom's eyes, and I did not know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be on the street because I did not know how I was going to quit. I had no idea, because I knew that I had no power to quit drinking. And she put me in touch with a man I did know. The thing I did not know about him was he was also an ordained minister, which I had been. And the secret that was holding me back was I had been drinking all through my ministry, and I did not tell anybody and was never going to tell anybody, especially my mom, that had happened. And she got me in touch with that psychologist, which allowed me the opportunity to get enough honesty in me that I began to get recovered. And from that time, except for one slip, I have been sober this coming Sunday 15 years. I have not had to have another drink. And when I came in, I did not know how I was going to get sober. But this program works. These set of tools that are found in the big book, and doing the steps, and finding a sponsor, and finding a power greater than yourselves, and doing the work and putting in the effort. It works. And I'm so grateful. My life is so great today compared to what it was. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you in this meeting. Thank you all. Happy New Year. God bless you.
Thank you, Larry. So glad you have joined us and that you've become a member of our family and someone that I can call friend. And I'm going to jump in real quick because we've got a couple minutes and no hands up. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And, I love the very beginning where it talks about that curious phenomenon that parallels with our sound reasoning. And then invariably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking that first drink. And then it says, our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. Is that sound reasoning akin or similar to my self-knowledge? Because neither one of those could keep me sober. My sound reasoning didn't work because, I just kept picking up over and over and over again. Because I could always justify my way around what those consequences were going to be and justify why I should take that first drink. And then it talks about that meditation, the premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. I missed that. I would have that premeditation of that drink, and I would pass right into, this is fun, this is great, life is wonderful. And I would totally bypass whatever those consequences were going to be because I didn't want to think about them. Goes right back to that sound reasoning was not working for me. Neither was my self-knowledge, because neither one of those kept in check my thinking. And at the very end, it's talking about such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? After all the things the jaywalker did. Many of them paralleling with my drinking. And then that question or that comment Lisa had, what label would people who knew you place on you? And while I know what someone else's opinion of me is not my business, I do know that those labels that people put on me today, that they've shared on me or shared with me, a lot nicer words in them now than it used to be. And, drinking cost me my family because I put up the walls, because I stopped talking to them, because I kept secrets and didn't tell them what I was doing because I was ashamed. Drinking didn't cost me a job, fortunately. But, drinking cost me my self-respect. And without that self-respect, all that other stuff, the self-knowledge, the sound reasoning, none of that mattered without the self-respect because I didn't care. I didn't care where I ended up when I drank. And then somehow, one night, one conversation after many, many hours of conversations, that little bird, that little word got into my head, and I know it was God, even though I didn't want anything to do with God. I know it was God saying, what if there's a chance for a better life? Wouldn't you want to take it? Wouldn't you want to do something about it? And I found myself walking into a room at Alcoholics Anonymous and finding a whole lot of people. I forgot to set the timer, I think. Yep, I did. Finding a whole lot of people who acted like and talked like and thought just like I did. But you guys were laughing and you guys were smiling and you guys were living life and enjoying life, and I didn't know how to do that. I was too scared. But it was through taking these steps, following these directions, that I learned how to live the life. And that sound reasoning started kicking in other aspects of my life. This is a dumb idea. Maybe I shouldn't do it. This job isn't getting me anywhere. Maybe I need to go find another one. All these years of not talking with my parents, maybe it's time to have a conversation. That one came with a little kicking and screaming, but it happened. And coming in and finding that God of my understanding. Help me realize I didn't have to keep doing those things. And I could start relying on the group and other people, and then relying on God to get me into a life where I could relate to you guys. Happy, joyous, free, laughing, carrying on, and living life. Not just drinking to escape from it. And I am going to quit there, and since there are no other hands up, Lisa, would you like to read out our closing for the night?
Sure. Our book is from page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you,
And
Lisa.
we'll close out with a moment of silence. We can't hold our hands up, hold hands like in person. So our version of that is holding our hands up in the screen. And we'll close out with a moment of silence and then the Lord's Prayer. Here's a moment. Our Father, God in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever.
Amen.
Thanks for staying up with us, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We
Thank you,
enjoy
man.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Thank you, Jamie.
Love you
Glad I
all.
can join
Right,
you.
good night,
a lot of good
everyone.
stuff.
Yeah, that was a good meeting,
See
guys.
ya.